been trying to rally the West, make a stand with them against fascism. They opposed Munich. They opposed allowing Hitler into Czechoslovakia, but nobody would do that. So it wasn't just in 1939 when the Soviets proposed an alliance with Britain and France against Hitler. It had been actually throughout the late last.
In the really important things, relocation centers are not normal and probably never can be. Home life is disrupted. Eating, living, and working conditions are abnormal. Training of children is difficult. Americanism, taught in the schools and churches and on the playgrounds, loses much of its
half of the 1930s that the Soviets were pushing for that. Had that happened, we could have stopped Hitler. We could have prevented the Holocaust. We could have prevented World War II, because Hitler was weak and knew he was weak, and he was bluffing and assuming that the West was not going to stand up to him, that the West was hoping in many elements in the
meaning in the confines of a relocation center. When the War Relocation Authority was only a few months old, it was decided that relocation centers should not be maintained any longer than necessary. The first people to leave the relocation centers were volunteer workers recruited to help Ken.
West were hoping that he was just going to go east. And so in the 30s, the Soviets are the ones who are most strongly opposed to the Nazis.
The Moscow negotiations between the USSR, UK and France had stalled. Because at the same time, London
and later to harvest the sugar beet crop of the western states. Almost 1/10 of the evacuees volunteered for this seasonal work in 1942. The result of their labors was a year's sugar ration for about 10 million people. But work in the beet fields was temporary. Most of the people returned to the centers.
London hosted secret Anglo-German negotiations. In exchange for the British Empire's integrity, the British greenlit a German march to the east. And despite the absence of a formal agreement, Hitler was given to understand that he was free to act in the east.
The War Relocation Authority has been more concerned with permanent relocation, getting the evacuees out of the backwaters of the relocation centers into the mainstream of American life, so their labor can help to win the war, so the cost to the taxpayers
and shouldn't worry about the West. When we speak of new territory in Europe today, we must principally think of Russia. That colossal empire in the east is ripe for dissolution. Adolf Hitler, Mein Kampf.
may be reduced. So there can be no question of the constitutionality of any part of the action taken by the government to meet the dangers of war. So no law-abiding American need to fear for his own freedom. Relocation of the evacuees is not being carried on at the sacrifice of national security. Only those evacuees whose state
Hitler makes clear in Mein Kampf in 1925 that the real goal is to take over Ukraine and going to the east against the Soviet Union. That was always Hitler's real goal. And
and whose acts leave no question of their loyalty to the United States are permitted to leave. All information available from intelligence agencies is considered in determining whether or not each individual is eligible to leave. Those who are not eligible to leave have been moved to one center to live.
Europeans understood that in some ways.
Poland too was preparing to invade the USSR with Hitler. The dismemberment of Russia lies at the heart of the Polish policy in the East. The main goal is to weaken and defeat Russia.
Presumably for the duration of the war. The others, established as law-abiding aliens or loyal Americans, are free to go whenever they like. Thousands already have gone. Here are a few of them. Nobura Aramura is examining corn for
From a report by the Polish Army General Staff Intelligence Branch. But Hitler had other plans that didn't involve Poland.
Also, es war vorgesehen eine Neuaufteilung der Welt, geografische Neuaufteilung.
insect in a field in Illinois. Kenneth Sugioka used to operate his own orchard in Hollister, California. Machine work was a hobby. Now it's his job. He's making precision parts for American bombers. Masako Takayoshi is assistant head nurse in a large hospital.
Und damit verbunden die Beseitigung der UdSSR. Das war die Lage, in der sie versetzt waren.
Journalist Jan Engelgard is curator at the Museum of Polish History in Warsaw.
Znajdujemy się
He was a teaching supervisor of nurses in a Seattle hospital before evacuation. She has 3 brothers, all in the Army. The tractor driver here is Roy Himoto, who used to farm near Walnut Grove, California, and was evacuated to the Tule Lake Center. This young machinist has learned his trade since he relocated to Chicago, and his boss
przed fotografią, która przedstawia wspólną defiladę wojsk radzieckich i niemieckich we wrześniu 1939 roku po pakcie Ribbentrop-Mołotow. To jest ważna fotografia, bo przedstawia ona wydarzenia, które w polskiej pamięci historycznej odgrywa bardzo dużą rolę. Nie ma tutaj miejsca na fałszowanie historii, bo takie fakty istniały.
says he learned it well. He's helping to make kitchen equipment. Mrs. Ayako Kasai paints miniature dolls in a Midwestern studio. She used to live at Colusa, California, and then lived at the Granada Relocation Center.
But there were other facts too, about which the West prefers to keep silent. The Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact was only signed after all leading European powers had made deals with Hitler. 1933. Germany, France.
In the background is Cecilia Miyamoto, who divides her time now between working and attending college. Kei Nakadoi feeds the chickens on an Illinois farm, and on the same farm is an Issei, Tamago Shimatsu.
Some people have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country. And some people don't. People start pollution. People can stop it. Write for Pollution Booklet, Box 1771, Radio City Station, New York.
Very